What's up, everyone? We got another NFL offseason recap video. Today, we're going to be looking at the Green Bay Packers, how their season went last year, what they've done so far in free agency, and what they should look for in the draft. This past season went extremely well for the Packers, as they exceeded expectations and finished 13-3 in the regular season and 6-0 in their division. Now, they took care of business in the divisional round of the playoffs versus the Seahawks before the 49ers exposed their suspect run defense in the conference championship. Aaron Rodgers played more of a game manager role this year, and we didn't see as many big plays or clutch drives from number 12 than we have in previous years. Running back Aaron Jones had a breakout year, scoring 19 touchdowns, as he was given more opportunities to succeed in Matt LaFleur's offense, and he did just that. Wide receiver Davante Adams missed some time, but still had a solid year, as the Packers really failed to find a number 2 receiver behind Adams, as guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Geronimo Allison, and Alan Lazard failed to produce. With this, the offense still finished 8th in offensive DVOA. And in case you don't know what DVOA is, it is a statistic used by Football Outsiders that calculates the true performance of an offense or defense based on variables like yards per play given up and average yards per down. The Packers' offensive line was also very solid this year, led by guys like Brian Bulaga, David Bakhtiari, and Elton Jenkins. The defense was average as they finished 15th in the defensive DVOA. However, their new free agent pickups from last year, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, both had great seasons off the edge. Zadarius especially, as he was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, as he led the league in pressures and was a menace for any team to match a left tackle or a right tackle on. And for safeties, Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage both had really good years and formed a great safety combo, while corner Jair Alexander has really become an elite corner in only his second year and can be trusted in man or zone coverage on an island himself. Now on to the Packers' pre-free agency moves. Well, after having a down year in the 2018 season like the rest of the team, Mason Crosby bounced back in a big way, having a really good year this past year for the Packers. For that, the Packers extended their longtime kicker to a 3-year, $13 million contract. The Packers also released Jimmy Graham, and this was kind of expected. And coming into the season, I thought maybe Matt LaFleur would be able to regain some of Jimmy Graham's talent and former connection with Aaron Rodgers, because in Matt LaFleur's offense in Tennessee, Delaney Walker was heavily used around the offense in the slot and as a run-blocking tight end, but Jimmy Graham really failed to develop and never really lived up to the contract that the Packers gave him. After spending a lot of money last year on free agents Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, and Adrian Amos, the Packers entered this year's free agency with not much cap space, so they had to make some small financial moves. One move was signing Rick Wagner to be their new starting right tackle instead of Brian Bulaga, and they signed him to a 2-year, $11 million contract. They added Christian Kirksey from the Browns to a 2-year, $13 million contract, as Kirksey and Mike Pettin have worked together in Cleveland before. Now, this is a solid move for them. I don't see it being a great move because Kirksey's never really established a starting role and being able to handle it all by himself. But the Packers obviously trusted in Pettin and Kirksey have obviously worked together, so this might be a good deal for both of them. They re-signed Will Redmond to a 1-year, $750,000 contract. I think this is a really good move for them. They got Will Redmond for really cheap, and Redmond is a very versatile guy. He can play nickel corner, he can play free safety, strong safety, he can play dime linebacker, and the Packers really just use him all over the field. They re-signed Marcedes Lewis to a 1-year, $2 million contract because they need a tight end since Jimmy Graham's gone. In my eyes, signing Devin Funchess to a 1-year, $2.5 million contract is more out of desperation than anything. The Packers really missed out on all the top free agent receivers on the market like Brashad Perriman, Emmanuel Sanders, and Robbie Anderson. So they had to add someone, and Devin Funchess was a low-cost option for them. Now, if he can maybe regain the talent that he had in Carolina when he was playing with Cam Newton, it might be a good deal for them. But last year in Indianapolis, he obviously didn't perform, and we'll have to see if he can perform with a great quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. But otherwise, it's just a low-risk 1-year deal option to prove Devin Funchess' worth. Now, if he does turn into a good receiver for them, then this will be a good option. They can re-sign him for years to come. But this obviously means that they're going to need like a slot receiver as Funchess mans outside. And then they re-signed special teams returner Tyler Ervin to a 1-year, $1 million contract. Now, the Packers let a lot of longtime starters go in free agency. Geronimo Allison, receiver, who really never developed with the Packers, went to the Lions. Jimmy Graham, obviously I've said how he's failed, but he went to their division rival and pretty much team rival in the Chicago Bears. Right tackle Brian Bulaga, who's pretty much started every season he's played with the Packers since coming into the league in 2011, went to the Chargers. NFL leading tackler Blake Martinez went to the Giants, and I actually think this is a really good job by the Packers to not re-sign him. Tackles are one of the most overrated stats in the NFL. Instead, they should be looking at stats like tackles for loss or pressures instead of tackles, because Blake Martinez, you might think that he's a good linebacker because of all the tackles he has, but in reality, he's more of just a run stuffer who makes plays after the running back crosses the line of scrimmage, and he's not a very good player in coverage. He can't really guard tight ends, so I think this is a good move by the Packers to let him go. And finally, Kyler Fackrell, who led the team in sacks actually 2 years ago, went to the Giants as well, along with Blake Martinez. Now on to the Packers draft needs. What is their number one draft need? Wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Now the Packers desperately need a second wide receiver behind Davante Adams, and the draft is the best place to do it, especially with how deep the draft is at the wide receiver position. With the Packers Super Bowl window getting smaller and smaller with Aaron Rodgers growing older, it might not be a bad option to explore possible trade options to go up and get a top receiver like T. Higgins or Henry Ruggs. Now, in my opinion, someone with speed would be best, as they would fit opposite of Davante Adams pretty well. Now, realistically, at pick 30, the Packers are likely to find tier 2, tier 3 guys like Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, Denzel Mims from Baylor, Jalen Reagor from TCU, and if they're really lucky, Justin Jefferson from LSU at the end of the first round. All four of these guys have sub 4.45 speed, which would really fit well with Davante Adams, who really isn't a speed guy, who's more of a route runner guy. They also need a drafted tight end, as they currently have third-round pick J.C. Sternberger as their starter alongside Mercedes Lewis. Now, as the Packers' base defense under Mike Pettin is a 3-4, they really do need another linebacker next to Christian Kirksey, who they picked up. Now, currently that player is Oren Burks. Yeah, you've never heard of him unless you're a Packers fan. Now, they could use their first-round pick on a linebacker like Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma or Patrick Queen from LSU, but these two guys are unlikely to be there at pick 30 for the Packers. And the talent falls off past the first round at the linebacking position, while they could get another solid receiver in round 2, which means if they take a linebacker round 1, they could get another solid receiver in round 2, like KJ Hill from Ohio State, who I think would be a great fit for them. Not really a speed guy, but he's a really good slot receiver for them, as he was in Ohio State. Let's not get it twisted. After watching a decent amount of Packers games this year, I noticed that the Packers are a team that ran a lot of nickel and dime defenses last year. And if you don't know what nickel and dime packages are, it basically means replacing a linebacker with a cornerback or a safety. And I think the Packers have the versatility to do that with guys like Will Redmond and Tramon Williams on the roster. So if they do look to keep using nickel and dime packages over their base packages, they would only run 3 linebackers, and the 3 that it would be this season are Christian Kirksey and both Za'Darius and Preston Smith, while using guys like Will Redmond and Tramon Williams in the slot. Now, finally, the last draft need they have is getting another defensive lineman, especially I would say like a D tackle to help stop the run. And this is important because especially how the Packers got embarrassed last year twice in San Francisco. And I think this would be like a middle round pick, someone like Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma as a run stuffing nose tackle for 2 downs and then coming off for passing downs would be a good option for them. That's all for this NFL offseason recap video of the Green Bay Packers. Don't forget to like, comment what you think the Packers record prediction will be in 2020 and who you think they should take in the draft, and subscribe.